and thunder.
All right.
I don't know if it cut off right when I said love or if you got the whole snippet in.
Either way, it's coming out in the edit. All right. So, guys, we are talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. Full spoilers if you have not seen the latest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Skip ahead, pause us, close us out. We already got your view. Go see it. Whatever. Pause. Do whatever you want. But full spoilers from here on out. So what do we think about Thor, Love and Thunder?
I had a pretty good time with this movie. I think it's a lot of fun.
Sparks or Ben?
I loved it.
Ben?
I also had a pretty good time. I think this is like my second favorite Thor film, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
I like the first Thor film, but that's not hard. Yeah, I had a really great time with this one. I wish I could have seen it again. So there is something we will talk about that I said was if this happens at the end of the movie, this is going to be the best Marvel movie ever. Look, it's not. But like, I can't not like this movie because something that I've wanted for years happens in this movie.
You got Hercules.
And that's pretty cool. But no.
We don't care about Hercules.
I like Hercules. I've read Guardians of the Galaxy by Al Ewing. He's cool.
Okay.
I don't not care. Yes. So where do we want to start with this one?
The beginning.
The Korg recap.
Yeah.
I think that's really funny.
I like everything about it. I like so much of this movie.
The Korg recap was fun because it was just like, and then he mourned his brother, and then he mourned his brother again, and then he mourned his brother a third time.
If you didn't see any of the Thor movies or the Avengers movies or any Marvel movie, I think you get just enough to like, this is where Thor is now.
Yeah.
Which is
or like
fun.
If you haven't seen them for a while, because like I do think it's important to have, if you didn't just rewatch those movies, which I rewatched all of them. I rewatched every movie with Thor in it in this past week. But if you didn't just do that, it's important to know emotionally where Thor's at. Because he's gone through a lot of things. Yeah. And that's weighing on him in this movie. And I think that you do need to just be like, hey, by the way, don't forget. Yeah. Thor's been through a lot. And I thought that they executed that part really well. My only negative of the film, truly, is that I just wanted more time with things. I just thought the movie needed to be this short. That's really my big negative. Yeah.
That is one of my negatives as well. The fact that like coming out of it, I don't mind the pace of the film. I think it's brisk. But this is unlike Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which I like its 2-hour runtime. But this one felt like you could have added stuff. There's plenty that you could have added that would have been a net positive to this film, would have really helped us with staying in a moment, which we don't really get to.
Yeah, that is my make sure to play. Like, I honestly don't really have any negatives besides like the moments that I wanted to last longer didn't last longer. That's just me being selfish. Like, I liked everything in it. I wish there was more of it. Unlike other movies where like I can feel where they edited some of this movie out, but unlike other movies, like it doesn't make the movie worse. It's just like, man, I wish there was more of it because it's good.
Right.
I agree with that. There was a few times in the movie, especially in the beginning, that some of the line delivery was kind of, I don't know, it just didn't feel right to me. Especially when like with Chris Pratt, there was like a part of Chris Pratt, like half of them was like, I don't know if this was Thor projecting on Chris Pratt. I don't know. It just, there was this line where Chris Pratt in the very beginning when he comes out and they're talking about like, hey, you gotta look into the people you love, that's people you love, that scene. But when it first starts off, it's like, Thor, if I may. It's like, you may. It's like, is Chris Pratt asking Thor for permission to talk?
No, he's not. He's being facetious to Thor.
Oh, okay.
He wants to tell Thor, get the hell off my ship.
He's trying to kick him out.
Okay.
And he goes to him to be polite. Thor, if I may.
Oh, okay.
And I gotta tell you, like, coming from Infinity War and Endgame just a few days before, literally the day before, watching this one, Star-Lord's written so much worse in those movies. So fucking much worse in those movies than he is here.
I was watching this and I was like, this is the most I've liked Star-Lord in a while, honestly. And he's not in it that much, but I like I think Chris Pratt looks good as Star-Lord, and I think he's doing a good job with this dialogue. It's a good characterization for Star-Lord.
Okay. I didn't catch that he was being facetious, and now that I think about it, he totally was. I retract that statement.
No, it's fine. I really like the beginning. You just reminded me of when Thor Mary Poppins out of there.
He's not Mary Poppins. No, he's a witch. He's just the Wicked Witch.
Right. He's the Wicked Witch. He's just like, now, come on, there's a battle to win. It just flies down there.
I will say, comedy is extremely subjective, and if you don't like this movie because you don't think it's funny, that's a valid criticism. I'm not going to fight anyone who doesn't think it's funny. Sure. Taika Waititi's comedy works for me almost all the time.
Right.
He might be throwing out 100 jokes a minute, but I don't think any of the jokes are bad. It just means not everyone will land with a hearty guffaw. But like this opening scene, I really enjoyed Thor being silly. Like he's talking to the alien and like, this is our temple. And the guy's like, oh
yeah. He's
like, it's just Taika Waititi's like comic mentality just works for me. So like even the jokes that aren't funny, I'm still hanging with it. I don't turn my brain off just ignore the rest of it. Like I think this is still a very funny movie throughout. I don't think it's as strong as Ragnarok, but I do think I was laughing the whole time. Like thankfully I thought it was funny the whole time.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. Taika Waititi works for me 97% of the time, and that is great because like I can always there's always gonna be something that I'm laughing at in this movie, regardless of if every joke, if he throws out 100 jokes and 97 of them work, that's a win.
Mm-hmm. We said we were going to talk about the opening, but then we didn't. Which is Gorr with his daughter.
Gorr with his daughter. I wrote that note to be like, I want to talk about Gorr with his daughter.
With Chris Hemsworth's daughter, and going to the Necrosword and meeting his god, and I thought all this adapted Gorr quite well.
Me too.
For a film,
the God of Light. That is one of the vampires from the What We Do in the Shadows movie. Mm-hmm. Love it, big fan.
They do like it, some people have called this out as like bad CGI, the way that like the God of Light looks with like his outfit and his head, and I disagree. I think it looks disorienting in a way that it should.
He's like a big man.
Yeah,
he's a god. Gods are supposed to be like imposing figures.
I think people are uncomfortable with they do a straight on shot of him when he's talking to Gorr, mm-hmm. and straight on shots can be jarring in general, but like when you do have like CGI stuff, and there is CGI stuff to make him look big and his with his headdress and everything, like his head does look like it awkwardly moves on his body, but it didn't feel like bad CGI. It just felt like this god feels weird. Yeah. And just like a truly uncomfortable way, like mm-hmm. how uncomfortable it would be to be with a giant god.
When we were watching the movie, when it gets to the opening with Gorr and his daughter, which I absolutely love. I think it's all well done, great tone, all throughout. It's a great shot. And in the comic, the Necrosword falls from the sky with the two beings who are fighting. And I thought we were going to see that. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be so cool to see that moment. But I think what they did was much better for the movie, because they had like the previous guy who had the Necrosword, which makes it kind of this thing where it's like this cancer that is being passed from person to person in its quest to kill gods.
Right.
And I think that was a cool change.
Not only do I think that was a smart change for the film, but like up to that moment in the film, I was feeling like, if it's just him and his daughter, we're not really getting the full sense of like how dedicated all of his people were to the gods and that they abandoned them. But then you get that because he encounters the god and has a conversation with him and says, I'm the last of your disciples. And the god does not give a shit. Yeah. And that tells you everything instead. Yeah. And that worked totally fine. Totally great for me.
Yeah, I agree. And then we do then that's the Guardians. The Guardians bit. So we talked a bit about the top, but can we talk about the goats real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Unless you don't want to.
No, it's fine.
Great.
The goats, I was worried were going to wear thin. But I gotta tell you guys, up until the last frame of this movie, I was laughing every single time those goats screamed.
They, I I could definitely see people getting tired of the goats. But I think that they're put into enough different situations where it keeps it funny. Like you first meet them and they're laughing, so that's funny. But then they're on the Guardian ship.
And Nebula's about to shoot them.
Yeah, she's about to shoot them. Yeah.
We'll use them for meat.
Yeah. They run into the moon, which is probably the best gag.
The moon bit just because it's a beat. It's a slam beat.
It's a tiny moon.
It's
great,
so good.
Good physical comedy.
I will not lie. At first, I thought the goats and my cat's meowing. Suki, it's okay, baby.
I'll scream at it.
She apparently she likes the screaming goats. I really thought the screaming goats were gonna wear super thin, and like the scene on the ship is like, okay, if this is then the entire film, this is gonna get annoying real quick. But they were actually played just enough that every time, like Brandon, when they scream, it was funny.
Because they're not screaming goats in the comics. Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder are from Norse mythology, but also the comics. And Thor just rides them into battle when he doesn't have Mjolnir. But they're not screaming all the time. And so that was a Taika Waititi change. And I was really happy that it worked so well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it like being a gift from the people that he saved. Like he can't say no to them, and like clearly they don't want him either.
You have accepted them, so they must go with you now.
Yeah.
Because now he's not the god of thunder anymore. He's the god of devastation, as they call him in the send off conversation where they give him the goats. They're like, Thor, god of devastation.
Like, do you want to talk about the temple? I really don't. I'm gonna get mad.
It's making me sad.
Yeah,
it's making me sad. It's really good.
One of the things I wish we'd lingered a bit more on were the dead gods. I liked that we see the Guardians of the Galaxy getting distress calls from different populations who are finding all their gods dead, and there's some pretty gruesome imagery that's lifted from the comics in that moment. But I do wish we had more of Thor seeing Gorr's devastation before Gorr shows up.
That is definitely, now that the movie's out, that's definitely a lot of stuff that got cut. Lena Headey was apparently a god who got murdered, and there was like a whole entire subplot of like Thor meeting her and her dying and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Goldblum and the dwarf guy,
Peter Dinklage,
Eitri from Peter Dinklage. Apparently, like they were both going to get killed by Gorr, and they decided to cut that from the movie for timing purposes, like tonal purposes, whatever. But like there was more Gorr butchering, and I could have used definitely more of it, but again, like
it's the thing that you're talking about. It's the thing that you talked about when you said there should be more, which is like it's you being greedy. It's me being greedy too. I like the stuff in this movie, and I would have happily had 30 more minutes.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It gives you just enough to realize the threat. Yeah. And us coming from the comics, like we know the potential is there.
And it's good that they use. I have mixed feelings about Sif's usage in this movie, but it is good that they use a god that is in immediate danger that Thor knows and has a relationship with in the form of Sif, who's in her comic accurate costume, which was cool.
Yeah,
right.
But so that gives it the weight, but like still, I do wish that we would have had more gods from different populations showing up dead.
I think for me, I just wish that there had been an implication of more time passing where Gorr was doing this, and they just hadn't figured it out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's translated through the distress signal thing, even if it's just we didn't activate the distress signals today, they kind of all come in at once, which feels like Gorr is just like doing all this in a day, and I'm like, I wish we were just learning about this or something like that. And you still you get some amount of that implication, right? Because like the tribe that comes up to Thor says, our gods are dead. And now that the gods are dead, the temple was left abandoned and they came in.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the nuggets were there to expand on the timeline of that, just didn't, which is fine.
Yeah.
I also could have used more time with the Guardians, frankly.
Yeah, sure.
Before they vamoosed.
I thought they were going to come back.
But they wouldn't have added much to the story. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
I like Kraglin. Kraglin's there. I'm real happy about it. Marries someone on every planet they go to.
God. The joke of Kraglin is so good. Buddy, have you been here the whole time? Yeah, I'm married. What have I told you? You can't marry every person on every planet.
He's just becoming a little ego. Look at him.
I really liked Kraglin's inclusion. And it was nice to see it was nice to see a relationship had progressed between Thor and all of the Guardians. Like, he's no longer competing with Chris Pratt, or at least Chris Pratt doesn't think of him as a threat anymore. And you get that a little bit of Rocket and Nebula being closer than the others because they spent the 5 years together.
Yeah.
It's all there, and it's kind of nice that like that was able to just be plopped in as like just some good Guardian stuff.
Yeah, because like they didn't need any like little character moments between any of them. They could have just had Thor is with them and then he leaves, but like it is the nice little attention of like, no, all these people have gone through their own journeys and stuff, and it's like the little attention to detail to that is nice.
I do still kind of stand by my assessment that we talked about a little while ago about kind of wish that the Guardians came back around for the final confrontation with Gorr, or at least like what they thought might be the final confrontation with Gorr. Because if they were going to like address these distress signals, and like Thor could call on them for help, but the clean break like does leave room for what is the point of the film. So like again, that's kind of fluff, but it is like, that would have been nice.
I see what you mean. I don't know how.
I want other things in the movie more.
Yeah.
It just is a sense of like, Thor was just with the Guardians. If Thor needs help, why wouldn't he call the Guardians?
Yeah, that's fair.
And the Guardians could have been how the kids get back from New Asgard.
Yeah, there's the perfectly happy with what we get instead, because like it's more focused on Thor and Jane and Gorr, which is where the film should be focused.
And the Thor kids.
It in a logic sense of like, if I'm Thor and I just left that team, I need a team to get the kids. I would call the Guardians, say, hey, these kids, can you help get to...
Yeah, I agree. I like the... I like that all of a sudden Heimdall has a son.
Yeah.
Love it.
Astrid.
Axel.
Astrid.
Let's go by Axel. Sorry.
Oh, he doesn't... Wait, isn't Axel... You're right.
No, he wants to be named Axel after Axel Foley. Axel Rose.
Then he changes his mind, right?
No, his born name is Astrid. He wants to be called Axel, and Thor doesn't want to call him that.
Okay. He's too old to understand.
Axel Heimdallson.
I always like that.
I did like, was like, it's like your dad gave you a really cool Viking name, and I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the. I was surprised at how much I like the kids' inclusion, and it leads to one of my favorite scenes, which is Gorr torturing them, I guess. Yeah. With like the worm thing.
Yeah.
He figured out what kind of story they like. He's just trying to tell them a nice story.
They like heads getting chopped off, so let's give it to him. Yeah.
I'm so happy Christian Bale Gorr comes out much better than Malekith.
Yeah.
Christian Bale is incredible, and they give Gorr just enough to make him a good villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he still gets. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, I was gonna say there was definitely a reason I was looking forward to seeing this movie, because there's like snippets of an interview Chris Hemsworth did saying that he absolutely loves Christian Bale as Gorr. He thought it was one of the best things in the movie or something to that effect. And seeing this movie, it's like he's not wrong. Christian Bale is amazing as Gorr. I think he did a fantastic job of just being absolutely terrifying.
The way they use shadows to obscure part of his face with just like the yellow eyes, they're yellow.
So good.
He got unhinged just enough without like going over the deep end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it didn't go into full tilt performance, but he would get like, like loose with the kids, or when he's taunting Valkyrie. Yeah. And he'll let himself emotionally get a little rambunctious and out of control, but it never got to like, I have gone full Joker over the edge. Here we go.
Yeah. He gets a little goofy, which is fun. Like his scene with the kids, like it is like a fun menacing of like, oh, you don't like you? Oh, I thought you liked heads getting chopped off. Like he has a proper amount of menace and fun,
and he does a good job of turning from that to, I knew a girl like you, and then it gets deeper and deeper into the emotions that he doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think just Christian Bale is just, truly one of the best villains we've seen in the MCU.
He's real good. He's not in the movie. Again, this is me being greedy. He's not in the movie as much as I assumed for our main villain to be. Like, I feel like he kind of pops in and out. Like, but
that's why I referenced him to Malekith, because Malekith has more screen time, but a far less developed villain. Christian Bale does more with less in this movie.
Oh yeah. Every time he's on screen, you're like, oh yeah, he's not phoning it in. Oh yeah.
And he's having a good time.
Yeah.
Because I'm selfish.
Yeah.
Said I wanted more time with him because I'm selfish.
We got King Valkyrie hates bureaucracy, hates writing stuff.
Fantastic outfits.
Yeah.
The montage of Tessa Thompson's different suits as King. Just great outfits. Tessa Thompson looks so good.
I think New Asgard looks really good from the last time we've seen it.
Man, it is a tourist place.
It went from a quaint little fishing town to a huge town with a booming tourist industry.
Cruise ships.
Because I saw this film twice, and the second time I thought about some of these things, and like, I don't care. I love the movie, so these are like, boy, you could nitpick these if you want to. I don't give a shit. But it is funny to me that we do a whole montage of many gods in Thor's life having been killed, and then it's like the Necro Sword, which can kill gods, and I'm like, I've seen a lot of gods die though. So I don't know, is it that special that it can kill gods?
It's
small G.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like they could have said like, oh, it has the power to end like omnipotent life. Something, because again, we have seen a bunch of gods get murdered.
Right? Yeah. It's I was kind of like,
Thanos had no problems.
I mean, okay, the Necro Sword, it's still cool. I think that they play it off just fine in the film. Yeah. Similar deal about finding eternity. That Bifrost is the key. That's kind of our whole point. Gorr gets to eternity at the end. Thor just happens to know where that is. With the lightning bolt and goes, and then not only does Thor, but so does Warsong with Jane know where that is, so they got it. I mean, technically, does Warsong travel on the Bifrost?
No.
Warsong?
Yeah, the horse.
Oh,
Valkyrie's horse.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
No, it's a different.
Yeah, I thought so. It's a different thing. So like, they both figure out how to get there somehow.
She just like ports in or whatever.
That's cool. Yeah. Whatever, I don't care. It's a great.
I like that effect, the porting in effect.
Yeah, yeah. It just is a little funny when like the semantics of the movie of like why it's happening is like only the Bifrost can take you to where that is, and I'm like, okay. This is
a Taika Waititi. This is where the 97% work for me, and this is one of the ones that didn't work for me. Didn't work for me is actually a strong word. I'm not too negative on this, honestly. It is strange though that there is a place on New Asgard that is called Infinity Cones, which is a very funny pun. But yes. Thanos wiped out half their population twice.
Yes. I also am like, that's real funny, but okay. Sure.
Thanos attacked them after their planet was killed and then snapped half of them away.
It's like making an ice cream parlor based around the Twin Towers. It's a little weird. It is though. Yeah. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I laughed at the pun of Infinity.
See the plane.
I laughed at the pun of Infinity Cones, but then you're right. The more I think about it, the more it's like you probably.
It's not a detractor. It's not a detractor at any means. At all.
Right.
These are movies, and it's not a real devastating event that occurred. But it is just a little odd if you think about it. You're like, how would some people feel about going to this place?
Yeah, I've seen counter arguments to it too, but I honestly just don't care either way.
Yeah,
honestly,
no, yeah.
I get why people are hung up on it, but like, hey, the Infinity Gauntlet, like Tony used one to save the universe too.
It's super,
so, like,
exactly.
So
it's also the thing that brought them back. So that's an excellent point.
You know what would have been fun? Would have been fun if it was the Iron Man Gauntlet and not.
I was gonna say it feels like it should have been the Iron Man Gauntlet because then you're celebrating the one that brought everybody back and saved everybody instead of celebrating the one that Thanos had that killed everybody.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. Like you're going for the more common look as far as like what we know from the comics and everything, but like it should be the Iron Man Gauntlet, and that would make more sense.
Right? I do agree with that. Yeah.
All of these should be taken in jest because quite honestly, this movie rules.
It's a super colorful, funny gag. I don't really care. If you think about it, it's like, wait.
Because you brought it up, I want to talk about the thing that makes this movie impossible for me to hate for all of time.
Okay.
For all of eternity, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
Because I said in the beginning of this movie, when I hear the Necro Sword use Bifrost, find eternity, erase all the gods, whatever, I was like, oh man, if we see eternity in this movie, I'm gonna flip. Because I've wanted. How many times has eternity been on my bingo card in the past 4 years?
And this one's.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know, man. So like, I think when they get to the well, it's like, okay, well, that's eternity, and they're gonna wish the thing, and then eternity eternity is in this movie, visualized very well, I might add. I flipped. I was just like,
I turned to Ryan when they got to the location of the Eternity statue, and I was like, we should have made a bingo card.
Yeah.
Everybody would have finally gotten one.
Because like there's a lot of statues in there. Oh, by the way, Uatu, really cool detail that Uatu looks like the What If version.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about them when we saw a glimpse of them in the trailer because you got Death in there.
Yeah. The Living Tribunal.
The Living Tribunal, yeah. Uh-huh.
I know it's all CG, but it's still cool detail.
But it's still nice. Like that's the most acknowledgement of those entities we've gotten in the MCU films.
It's interesting that the cosmic entity of eternity is much more than you get a wish, but it doesn't bother me. Eternity is like the guy who shows up when like you're threatening reality. We can't be doing this shit.
Well, and also like
we just read the Avengers Mech comic where Eternity gets Black Panther power. So like it is much more than just a simple wishing well thing. So I hope this isn't the little end of Eternity. But if it is, like I'm not gonna.
Well, I don't think
it's the people who come through the well.
I don't think it's that either because they say like the specific line is the first mortal person to reach eternity gets a wish granted, which means nobody else after that.
Yeah.
It's this one thing.
Yeah.
One person gets to come to eternity and get a wish granted in all of eternity, and that's it. Eternity's doing other shit the rest of the time.
Everybody gets one.
One person gets one.
Eternity is one of my favorite visual things to see in comic book art. Because like there's the classic version of Eternity, which is just like the white page, and you just see the figure with the galaxies and the stars inside of it, and that's really cool. But I really like it when Eternity is speaking to people within space, and so you just see like a starscape, and you just see like eyes, and maybe like a kind of a shadow shape. Either one of those I would have been really okay with. But I kind of like the way it visualized with like in the well, like in kind of ethereal waters. This kind of figure.
I really like that too. I like the visual setup of the location and everything, and Eternity did look great. My favorite moment of the Eternity visual, honestly, was when Gorr's daughter is walking towards him, and you see the reflection looks like Eternity.
Yeah.
I thought that was really neat.
It's a great polar opposite of the beginning of the movie, Gorr being in a desert.
Yeah,
and the movie ends in water.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just like just visually. It's really that's good stuff, Taika. I like that.
Yeah, I agree.
And you said Hercules. Get a post-credit scene for Hercules. Finally,
well, let's talk about Jane Foster, like the star of the movie, before we move on to Hercules. He's in it for 2 seconds. I love
so good.
Jane Foster so much in this movie, and like I can get why people are a little iffed that this was a one and done thing. I think for the movie and for this universe, I think it works exceptionally well. I think it works extremely well for the character of Thor and his journey. I think if you do the entire cancer story and then immediately get rid of it, it kind of removes the whole point of this movie. So like, I think Jane going is the best logical thing for this movie. And I think it's done exceptionally well. And I think it's beautiful.
Which really like my only hang up on it just comes back to, well, I just want more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I'm a selfish baby boy.
Oh yeah.
And I want more of my Jane Thor.
Oh yeah.
I never thought that we'd get more than this for Jane Foster, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Because up until this movie was out, like Natalie Portman hadn't been saying like, "Oh, I'd love to come back. I want to come back." Like now she's saying she would like to come back if the story was there. But prior to this, I was still operating on the assumption of like this would feel like Taika was like, "I want to do this one story with you."
Mm-hmm.
So will you come back for this one thing?
Taika clearly likes working with her because he wants her in Star Wars.
Yeah, that was funny.
So. I'm sure that there's room, but like I really like this story. It is just something where like if I could, we know there was a 4-hour cut of this movie originally, and I don't need a 4-hour cut, but I wouldn't mind an extra half hour that put back in some of the Jane and Thor stuff, or back in some of the Gorr stuff. That's all stuff I really want to see. The only things we know for sure we've seen that aren't in this movie are mostly clips with the Guardians that were in the trailers that didn't make it into this cut.
Yeah.
Told Ryan specifically, there's one I keep thinking about is the one where the Guardians are rushing forward in battle and Thor is like solemnly turning away from it in his armor. I'm just so curious what that scene was about, but like I don't need more of them as much as I want more of Jane and Thor, and I want more of Gorr. But I'm still totally satisfied with what I got in this movie. I just want more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few notes about Mighty Thor, about Jane. I think that her adaptation, like this is mostly an adaptation, like as far as she is concerned, it is her arc from the Mighty Thor comic book. I really like how they condensed it, in the sense of like, the hammer isn't actually curing her; it's just kind of keeping her on life support.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in the comic, when she has the hammer, she has no cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's like, no, the cancer is still there and it's still weakening her. She gets weak as Thor sometimes. You know, that's when we see her in the bathroom, which is a scene that I really like. The quick transition when she drops Mjolnir, and she becomes like Cancer Jane. And then we see her kind of like very weak and kind of like looking in the mirror, and then she summons the hammer again, and the quick transformation to Mighty Thor. I think that's all really good stuff.
Yeah.
Even the end of Thor saying like, "Don't do this. The hammer's killing you."
That's another relationship that I will say, like, I think maybe even more crucially than the other stuff I was saying I wanted more of in this movie is Valkyrie and Jane.
Oh, sure.
There's clearly like some bond there, and I wish we got a little bit more time with it.
Yeah, because Jane has already been Mighty Thor for a bit. I don't know how long exactly, but Valkyrie's not surprised when Jane shows up at the battle with Gorr.
Yeah.
No, yeah. She's been doing something for a bit there.
Yeah.
And she also knows about the cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this was something I talked to. I don't know if it was you or Megan, but like I talked about, like, one thing I do feel like this film didn't quite fully get to deliver on the promise of was they talked about, you know, with Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie, that she was going to be a king seeking a queen. Was something they wanted to do, and that did not make it into this version of the film. I think there's still like very, very much more obvious indications of her bisexuality present in this film than there were in Ragnarok, but like it feels like that's one of the other things that feels like got cut out, is that for a time she was interested in Jane.
So there is behind the scenes shots of Natalie Portman powering up at the side of Mjolnir. That was cut, and I think that's actually stronger because it would reveal that she becomes Thor then, instead of when Thor meets her, which I think is better for the story.
I agree.
So I agree. So I like that cut, but there was an entire section of her being Mighty Thor in Asgard at the beginning, and then she meets Valkyrie. So yeah, all that stuff they could cut.
Yeah. I liked. I really do like how they include Jane's story. I did have something else I wanted to add to that, but that's fine. It's gone.
I love that we get Darcy back and Selvig back for small appearances. Really, really nice.
Yeah, it kind of brings it all back full circle.
Also, Daryl from the shorts that were in Ragnarok. He shows up in this. He's a tour guide.
He's a tour guide at the Hammer.
Yep.
That's great. I didn't catch that.
I caught that at the second watch too.
Ben?
No, I was gonna say, aside from Chris Hemsworth's Thor, Jane Foster's my favorite part of the movie. I absolutely love how she's still fighting, and also one of the scenes I actually kind of like. I don't know why, but you see Thor and Jane eventually drift apart during like the Age of Ultron, after Thor: The Dark World, pre-Age of Ultron. When they're in their relationship, they're like super happy, and then they just slowly but surely just start drifting apart.
Because it's a well shot scene. That's why we like it, man.
Also, I really like that scene, but every time when I love the complete 180 it goes from Jane when she's ridden with cancer to her as Mighty Thor. I just love how the way the makeup is, like the sullen eyes, her hair is like darker, and she's like very sickly, but then she picks up the hammer. Her hair is a little brighter. It's blonder a little bit, and she's like, "Let's go, ready to fight."
She also gained 6 inches she's not 6 foot tall.
I really love Natalie Portman in this. And one of the things I really adore about it is that Taika knew to bring back Jane is very easily, especially if you haven't watched the movies and the original Thor films in a while, or the What If episode, I think did this very well, it's easy to forget that she wasn't just the girl in the movie. They actually made her a huge dork. She's just a massive dork, and it's not as clear in Dark World, but it's definitely there in Thor. And it comes back here where she's got like things in the montage show how dorky she is. That she's just very kooky. She's very silly. She likes weird little things, and the fact that that energy was recaptured not just in like the Thor and Jane montage of how they were before the dumping, but also in like bits where she's like, I know everybody thinks that I'm like this cool astrophysicist who's got everything figured out. It's like, Jane, you're such a huge dork.
And when she talks about like at the hospital, it's like, I wrote that. It needs a 3D model, and this.
I'm so glad because like she really excels in the films when she's allowed to be a dork.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys, like you ruined your own book.
Yeah, but now you understand.
Yeah,
Einstein Rosenbridge.
Omnipotent City. That is something from the Jason Aaron run, although the Godhead is something that has existed in Marvel for a while. They just did something different with it. It was very cool to see the dumpling god or whatever.
Bow.
God of dumplings.
God of dumplings. Love it.
I think the Cronin god looks really cool too. He's on a throne of scissors.
Oh my god, the scissors joke is so good. He's on a throne of scissors because Rock beats his. It's so good. I love it. It's dumb.
There's so many good.
That's why. Oh my god! I just
oh man, I'm so happy you're here for this.
God damn it!
There you go. Rock beats his. Yeah.
God damn it! Because Fanny and I were on the car ride home after the movie last night. And we were talking about how that was a cool throne, but we couldn't figure out why it was made of scissors. God damn it!
You see a Mayan god, an Aztec god. You see Bast, even though not as forefront as I assumed, given like the marketing of it all. But like, so many different gods. You got like a cool samurai looking god, like
a dragon,
dragon,
a couple dragons actually.
What's really nice is how vibrant this movie is, especially in Omnipotent City. Like the Omnipotent City scene is one of the most. I won't say it's one of the most colorful, but vibrant's a good word. Vibrant's a great word for this. One of the most vibrant scenes in the MCU is Omnipotent City. It constantly looks like a busy location with thousands of people.
What if the prequel Senate scenes looked great?
Pretty much. And the god seats were filled. Like there are few empty seats.
Raw was there.
Ra was there, and so there's tons of gods there, and they're all unique and different. And they all have different dress, and some of them are bigger, and some of them are not.
The Celestials have to peek in because they're too big.
The Celestials.
Can I get a seat?
It's great.
Yes, I agree with it completely. Like one of the reasons this film succeeds is because of it. I think it is arguably the most, if not one of the most vibrant of the MCU, maybe only in competition, honestly, with Guardians 2.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is true throughout the entire film. Even when they go to the Shadow Realm, that is still a choice of how vibrancy is going to work in the film, and the way that they do the shadows, the way they do the black and white, the way they do where color does get to shine through, thanks to the weapons.
The same way he shot the Valkyrie flashback, the very short Valkyrie flashback, was how he shot the Shadow Realms fight sequence.
That's cool.
So a lot of the same colors are like really shining, like black and white.
Yeah.
Really,
that Shadow Realm scene is quite good.
Yeah. And I know Sparks was there with me. Like, we assumed that was the final act.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got there, I'm like, oh, is this movie already over? Is this movie this short? What?
And I was like, no, it definitely isn't. Like, this is not the third act, baby. There's more.
Yeah. Real quick, back to Omnipotent City. Russell Crowe as Zeus. What a delight. What a jerk off. Just perfect Zeus. This is multiple superhero orgies happening on the Fake Nerds Watch, because we got Herogasm and now we got Omnipotent Cities. You are not invited to the orgy.
I honestly can't imagine I've heard the word orgy in an MCU movie.
And you hear it multiple times in this one, baby.
Yep, you hear it multiple times.
I do really like the who else is in disguise? I flick you too. No, we're good. We're good. We're here.
So good.
Russell Crowe, like You know, like when he's at Zeus, he puts on this big air, but then when he gets super close to Thor, he's like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I am afraid, I'm scared, but we're safe here, so we're just going to stay, and we're not going to do anything about it.
Bad gods. That's why all gods need to suffer. I get it, Gorr.
I'm actually also kind of glad that using the Thunderbolt didn't kill Zeus, because I was like, wow, I thought the Necrosword was the only thing that could kill gods. And then, of course,
I am too.
And then they're like saying, it's like, hey, you killed Zeus. I'm like, hold the fudge up. What? And then later you see him, they're like helping his wound, and he's like, okay, cool, he's not dead.
I also agree. I'm glad that he didn't die, and like that was the whole
because then what's the point again?
but again, Ben, gods can be killed without the Necrosword. It's definitely happened, my friend.
Yeah.
You just have to. Frigga got stabbed right here.
That's true. She did.
Heimdall got stabbed right here.
Heimdall got stabbed right here.
Choked right here.
Loki got choked out.
Fendrel and Volstagg both got stabbed somewhere around here.
Odin just kind of whisked away.
Yeah.
I will say, again, like it doesn't. I think this movie is pretty simple and not in a bad way. Like I enjoyed everything about it. Like the Thunderbolt being like, we need to get the Thunderbolt. That is the weapon we're going to use. They don't really tell you why. It's kind of like we just need to get a strong, powerful weapon.
Well, Valkyrie just says like, okay,
we need something to strong.
We're clearly not going to get an army, so they're not going to help us. But that Thunderbolt, that might help us because Valkyrie doesn't have a comparable weapon to fight the Necrosword with.
That's true.
And so Valkyrie takes Thunderbolt.
I would have liked a little more of like, wow, only Zeus's weapon can be this powerful to combat the Necrosword. Something instead of just like, we got to get the thing.
Sure.
But like again, it's not a big deal.
I can't wait for the controversy that this is going to stir up. I think Korg should have died.
I don't mind it. I'm not. I saw the trajectory of like that would have been a good emotional. Like it's been pretty funny, and then like something bad happens. I wouldn't have minded it, but like I'm glad he's alive too. You know.
I just feel. This is where the Taika Waititi works 97% of the time for me. Like this was an emotional moment, and I had the same issue with Thor Ragnarok when Asgard has exploded and Korg just goes, well, no, the foundation's gone.
Yeah.
Like I wish we had sat in the Asgard explosion moment. I still have that kind of issue, but like it's immediately undercut by a comedic moment, and I just feel like I would have preferred, because I don't think Korg really adds anything to the rest of the movie outside of just Taika Waititi being able to be in the movie a bit more.
Well, he sings his love song.
He does connect with Valkyrie about like, again, this is where you get some of the Valkyrie exploration in the film, which is her talking about like what she's lost
and the two dads
and how she feels. And that's also Korg talking about like how they make babies, and you need them doing that, A, to explore Valkyrie more, but B, also so that Jane and Thor can have their conversation where Thor learns she has cancer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I said, I love this movie. That was just kind of the emotional moment where I just kind of wish we had kept, because like it would have been sad. It would have been a good emotional punch.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think that I'm cool with Korg not dying because Thor already loses Jane at the end of the film, and like Thor loses people all the goddamn time, and I didn't need him to lose Korg too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of shocked that I thought Korg was dead, and then when he's just a head or a face for the rest of the movie, I enjoyed it.
I liked him tied on the back of her head.
No, he had a mustache.
I like him being carried by the goats.
Yes, I thought that was good too.
And when he finally whistles them to get the right note to bring him back, to bring him to him, that was really cool.
I really like those goats, guys.
What I will say, and I thought this the first time, and I definitely thought it more the second time, is that I wish Korg was not the person doing the sum up story. Let me tell you the story of the legendary space Viking, the mighty Thor, at the very end of the film. I wish that wasn't Korg. I wish instead it was Axel Heimdallson. And the reason I wish that is because Axel is established to be a fan of Guns N' Roses, and if you recontextualize the film as his version of telling this story, the Guns N' Roses needle drops make more sense.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I will say, like, I like the Guns N' Roses needle drops. None of them particularly bother me. A few of them I'm like, this could have been more interwoven, because they're all Guns N' Roses songs, all of them.
Except the very end, that's Rainbow in the Dark by Dio, but that's not either here or there. But
Are you talking about
the credits? It's the credits.
Yeah, not
it's,
that.
That's not part of the movie.
I'm talking before the narrative story has ended.
You're right. But
Ben's like, I'm about to drop some knowledge.
No, sorry. I apologize. That came off really pretentious. I love the Guns N' Roses needle drops. I unapologetically love it. Actually, one of the things I love about this, I tweeted it last night. I love the soundtrack. The 80s metal guitar riff for the Marvel's opening sentence, like the Marvel Studios logo. I freaking love that.
It's that theme, but with a metal guitar. That was awesome.
I unapologetically love it. I love the second I heard "Welcome to the Jungle" in the opening fight scene, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna love this movie. And then when November, when they're playing the most metal part of November Rain after he gives all the kids Thor powers, I'm like, oh, F yeah.
I do love November Rain.
I think November
is my favorite.
I think November Rain's the best of all.
Yeah.
As far as how it's interwoven, and Welcome to the Jungle is pretty well done. It's really Sweet Child of Mine is good. The music for the entrance of the goats into Omnipotent City, but I feel like we cut from it jarringly and too quickly.
Yeah, it's not as narratively cohesive with it.
Yeah.
I remember though when we were talking about the trailers, and I asked, do we think Sweet Child of Mine means anything to this movie? Do you think children are involved in any way? And this is not me predicting anything, but oh, there was something there. It is about him having a kid. I'm like, oh, look at that.
And also just about children.
Just about children. Man, Thor kids rule. What a fun kids afternoon ending to this movie. That was all the kids get powers. I thought that was great.
That was one of my favorite things because you took the children hostages and then made them more than just it would have been easy to just we get to them and then they're gone and then we do the deal with the villain, but they actually made it matter.
Sorry.
Go ahead if you want to talk about the children, because I want to revert back to the score.
Yeah, it's about the children. It's when the girl with the teddy bear, when they're all presenting their arms, they're presenting the things, and she brings her little teddy stuffed rabbit, and she's using it to shoot lightning out of its eyes. I thought was the funniest shit. And even the little girl who's in the princess outfit, she has her little wand, and she taps a shadow monster and it splits in half.
Yeah, I also really like how the children, how the shadow monster, the shadow cage, disappears with the children. It's a really good shot. I want to real quickly talk about Geochina Score, just briefly, because I really like Geochina Score. I like Geochina in general, but the score for this one is really good. I, however, do wish that he used more of the motifs from the original 3 films. Wasn't Ludwig Göransson who did Thor Ragnarok, I believe?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. The Ragnarok, some of the Ragnarok music is there, but there's nothing from Thor the Dark World.
Right, but Thor Ragnarok does, and I wish that we had kept more of that, because I actually think Thor the Dark World is one of the best soundtracks in the MCU.
Sure.
Marc Motherbog.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Well, he uses various themes from Thor and Thor the Dark World, and I would have liked. I wish that trend had continued.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Giacchino likes to reuse scores, so it's surprising that those don't really make it into the mix.
Jane's metal theme is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think in the movie it sounds good, but if you listen to it on its own, because the movie can kind of just so many other elements. If you listen to it on its own, it rocks hard.
If I'm being slightly critical about leaving out the Thor theme, a lot of the Thor theme is tied to the sense of Asgard. Mm-hmm. And Asgard doesn't exist the same. So I think leaving that theme behind is not necessarily the wrong choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I guess so, because Thor Ragnarok does recontextualize it with, this is Asgard.
Mm-hmm.
But then the Brian Tyler score for Thor the Dark World would have been cool. Because he uses that one in Age of Ultron also. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to say about the music. I like the music overall.
I love the way that Jane becomes Mighty Thor, the love incantation of always take care of Jane, in his drunken love stupor of I love her, I love you, Mjolnir, make sure she's happy all the time.
Put a charm on Mjolnir just like Odin did.
Yeah. I thought that was a great way of doing it. Honestly, I think I might like it more than the comics itself. Actually, the way they did it.
I won't say that. I'm not as hot on the change. I think it works for the movie. Don't get me wrong. I think it works for the movie, and it's fine. I do prefer the Hammer chose Jane that thing, because I think that's really important to Jane's story that she is worthy of the hammer in the comic.
Yeah.
For the movie of it, making it so that because the movie is a love story, like it's a rom-com essentially, and it's a love story, so that makes it make more sense contextually with the movie. But I won't say I like it more than the comic, and I understand people who have an issue with it who like that comic. I totally get that.
What was I gonna say?
I don't know.
No, the scene where Thor and Jane are in the hospital or in the infirmary, really, and then Thor finally straight up tells her, like, dude, I've loved you ever since I met you. I don't want you to get hurt. And I love how he really truly cares about her. And just like, yo, I want, like, you keep wielding this hammer, but it's killing you quicker. I mean, yes, you feel better, but it's killing you. There's a recreation
of actually. There's a few recreations of scenes from the comics, which was the Jane in the hospital bed with Mjolnir next to her, being like, "Hey, let's go." And the way Thor looks at Jane when she shows up as the mighty Thor is very similar to how it happens in the comic too, because like Thor knows, like, you've just killed yourself.
And that is what, again, like the message in movie I really like, and like Jane knows this is the end, but she's okay with it. Like living your life to the fullest, no matter the consequences, is something that Thor has not been doing. He hasn't been living his life. He's been pushing everything away so nothing of consequence can happen to him. And Jane's like, sorry, but I'm making you face this directly. I am dying in front of you. And you have to live with that decision that I made. That is so important to Thor's character. And it's so well acted, especially that final scene in Eternity. Between both Gorr and the daughter and Thor and Jane. Like, I think it's just so beautifully shot.
That Thor and Jane, the Jane death scene is one of my favorites. I really like how they contextualize that and the way that they bring, like, it's the final fight doesn't end with anyone winning.
Yeah.
Right. It's like Thor's just like, you won. Now I'm going to spend the rest of whatever time I have left before you make that wish. I'm going to spend it with Jane.
Yeah. Why would I spend my last moments with you when I can be with her?
Yeah.
Which is the thing that like opens Gorr up. And I think that works. Like, some people, they felt it was too fast. But like him coming away from the Necrosword infection and then seeing Thor choose Jane and choose love, which he was choosing love against Thor earlier in the film.
Yeah.
And now it's him doing it, and he realizes that is the path.
And like that, he has like a realization moment, because again, like, he is away from the Necrosword, which has been infecting him with this idea. So like all of this happening at once, he's like overwhelmed with emotion at one point. He's like, oh my God, what have I been doing? It's like a Dr. Octopus Spider-Man 2 moment of like, you're like, I can't believe I've done all of this, and like I've been such an idiot. Oh my God, you're so right, my guy. Love is great, and he does choose to spend his final moments with his daughter, and that's such a good moment again of like she won't have me for very long. Yeah, but she'll still have you.
Yeah,
that is such a great moment.
I really like how they recontextualized the Necrosword as an infection, because that's not necessarily the case in the comic either. The Necrosword, like, I really like how it's visualized to disappear from its previous owner to coming up a sort of like Excalibur into Gorr's hand. I think that's all really well visualized.
I also like the shadows that work with it. Like,
well, before that though, because I also like that, but I want to just say that like the kind of simplification of the Necrosword works really well for this film, to kind of like see in his like deformation into almost, not really the version of him in the comics, but like he is becoming less and less human as the Necrosword infects him. I think is all really well visualized. But yes, Ben, as you were saying, I like the shadow monsters also.
I will say the shadow monsters are cool. There is a lot of like dark knights fighting dark monsters, and I'm not going to say it always looks incredible. Like the first Thor Jane meetup in the village at night, I'm not going to say that looks great all the time. Some of the monsters are just like, wow, you're definitely shadows on shadows, which again, like, it could be way worse. But like, it doesn't always look great. I still think like this is a very vibrant movie. I think Ragnarok looks better than this movie does. I think there's more volume happening, more last minute special effects happening in this movie where it is more colorful for sure, but like I don't think it looks as good as a Ragnarok does.
Sparks, were you going to say something?
I was going to say that I thought a shadow creature looked particularly well when Mjolnir comes bursting through it from the backside to come to Thor, which I thought was a good bit.
Yeah,
which was also going to lead into me talking about the giving the weapons personality.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Just really good comedic beats with that.
That's one of my favorite things that he brought in from the comics. We talked about like Mjolnir doesn't work the same way in the comics as it does in the MCU. The fact that Jane gets a look, like gets a physical transformation, is different than what happened with Captain America when he wielded the hammer.
Yeah.
But Captain America could still wield like the thunder and whatnot. So like, so we talked about like the differences there. One of the biggest differences is that in the comics, Mjolnir is alive. Like Mjolnir has something inside of her that makes her alive, and it's really great that they brought that back to this back into the MCU. That Mjolnir is actually a living thing.
And Stormbreaker is like a jealous boyfriend.
I love that. I love my favorite thing, which I think is actually a practical effect, which I love because it would be so simple to do. All you have to do is like stand behind the camera. But like is when Thor is talking to Mjolnir and like he like makes sure he can still lift it. Mm-hmm. He can still lift it, and then and then Jane walks away with it, and then Stormbreaker just like slowly into frame. It's like I was just.
It's that shot and the one where they're in like the room where they're trying to calm down the parents, and he's trying to call Mjolnir, and then Stormbreaker comes around from behind him and he's like, "Hey, buddy,
there you are,
just calling you."
Yeah, that was pretty good too. I like that Thor keeps having to be like, "I am worthy, right? Yes, okay."
Mm-hmm. Just
cool.
checking.
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of really good stuff with the hammers. He's like, "You want your first beer, buddy? Here you go."
Oh my god, he has pours on it.
And then of course, like the colors get a little brighter on the Rainbow Bridge or the Bifrost.
That is such a cool effect. Riding along the Rainbow Bridge.
That is. A costume design. I love Thor's armor in this movie,
especially when he takes off the helmet. I don't like the helmet.
Yeah, I thought the helmet was a little too over the top, but his regular breastplate that he wears through I want to say 90% of the film, I really like. I like the color scheme of it. Of course, Jane looks amazing in her armor.
Yeah, she does.
Pretty much that's all I really got. I love this movie.
I'm really glad we got the Jane and Thor montage. I think it does a lot to help.
Oh yeah,
help make all of it work together.
Because
and it's good because it's both comical and touching.
Yeah, I think you need that because they have chemistry in that first movie and I guess that second movie. But like I would need more to make them be like, oh, she's the one that got away. So like having that
means escaped.
Yes, it means escaped. Having that montage of it being like over a period of who knows how long and seeing seeing the beginning to the end like was really helpful to make me believe in that level.
Sure. I really like the parallel shots of the pinky holding from the montage and then going into the shadow realm.
Yeah. Hot dog Thor.
I really liked all the vines when they're in Gorr's tent.
Yeah,
how that's visualized and how that comes together. I think that's all really good.
Man, I was expecting another Stranger Things where they disappear for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they disappear and then whoop, we're back.
Hey, what's up?
What was I gonna say?
I got something if you want to quickly remember.
I was just gonna mention how in the montage scene, like when they're watching a scary movie, Jane screams, Thor grabs Mjolnir, is like,
the Mjolnir pieces that Jane can like throw the pieces is such a cool idea.
That is.
I am in love with that. Just that idea of just all those pieces go flying out.
I agree 100%. The play. We didn't talk about the play.
The play. Yeah.
That is I was going to bring that up next though. I'm so glad they brought that back.
I completely forgot we talked about Melissa McCarthy playing Hela.
That's right.
Until it happened and I was like, "Oh yeah. Oh right."
Matt Damon and Luke Hemsworth are actually Asgardians as revealed in this movie. They are not just Matt Damon and Luke Hemsworth.
The play is funny. I like it even after, where they're trying to capitalize on a disaster,
on the tragedy.
On the tragedy, like,
do you think they need it now? I didn't hear a no. Neither did I. Okay,
we
Asgard late at night.
Just like the worst type of capitalist, theater capitalist. Yeah, so glad they're showing up in Old Spice commercials now as well. I saw Luke Hemsworth ask Thor, like,
yes,
it's me, the real Thor, doing Old Spice. And I'm like,
that's right. I was wondering why. I was like, why is this guy who is this guy? Because I've seen those commercials online.
Sam Neill's death as Odin. Just there I go into god dust.
And then he crawls off stage.
Jane's death. It reminded me. I really like how now we know that's not just how gods die. That's how gods go to Valhalla, because Jane turns into god dust.
That does appear actually to just be how gods die, though, because we see the big one,
the big monster,
the big one is doing that.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
When he gets to it, and Sif is there.
Oh, you're right, and the other god dies like that too. So Jane's a god. Yeah. So I take that back. Jane is as far as Valhalla is concerned, Jane is a god.
Jamie Alexander's Lady Sif appearance is fun. I'm glad that she came back for it. They make the joke about her arm probably being in Valhalla, and Ryan and I were both very confident that her arm was going to show up in that Valhalla scene.
That would have been good. It would turn a great credit scene to a better one.
There's no way Taika Waititi didn't think of it and just probably thought it didn't work.
Yeah.
I really like seeing Valhalla in the last thing. Mythologically speaking, it makes more sense that Odin would greet her, but you can't get Anthony Hopkins back for this. So I really like that it was Heimdall.
I think even just the context of the film, it works better that it's Heimdall, because she had a more friendly relationship with Heimdall in Dark World, and you had his son's presence. I just like getting Idris Elba back. I thought that was nice.
Yeah, I was happy they did it. I was really happy to see him back.
And it's nice because it's not exactly how it works in the comics, but like if there was if Natalie Portman did want to come back and they wanted to bring her back, there is a way they can make her the new Valkyrie.
Yeah.
So like it is incredibly nice that she could have just stayed dead, like this, like not in Valhalla, but like the avenue is there for potential.
And it's nice that because like, that's also from the comics, like she belongs there. She died a warrior. She belongs in Valhalla because that's her eternal peace in the Viking afterlife. Because she died as a warrior.
Her eternal reward, where you get Gorr, and Gorr's like, "Where's my eternal reward?" And his god is like, "There is none, bitch."
There was a mention in Omnipotent City of the god of carpentry. I'm just assuming Jesus Christ was hanging out there in some wine. Just assuming. I have to assume it.
You brought up Sif, Sparks, and I wanted to get my thought about Valhalla before I brought up Sif, but like, I'm glad she came back. I guess probably my own expectations was hoping for more. She does disappear very quickly into the movie and only shows up again at the end. I would have liked to have seen more because, like, I still lament that we didn't get more with the Warriors 3 before they were killed the way they were in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So
sure.
like,
and I think that's fair. And like, I hear you. I feel like there probably was some more of her that got cut.
Yeah.
And honestly, like in relation to the other things that I feel like got cut that I would have rather seen, that's like probably makes sense. Probably wasn't really adding much to the movie as it was.
Sure.
I desperately have to use the bathroom, so I'm going to say this real quick, and then I'm just going to run real quick. Hercules showing up, cool. Love Hercules. Looks the part. You have read the Guardians run where all the Greek gods come back and they become evil. So there's a cool trajectory of Thor, the Norse gods versus the Greek gods. Like that could be a cool next movie. I doubt that's what the next movie is, but like setting that stuff up, I think is really fun. I love gods v gods. I love big buff Hercules showing up. Big buff Bible. I love it.
Well, I also like the context of what he's doing that through is where Zeus is saying, like, we used to be respected, now we're a joke because they idolize the superheroes that have taken our spot in the limelight, which I thought was a nice, like, mythology commentary thing that they were able to do, and Thor being at the forefront of it.
I really like the inclusion of Hercules. The best part about this movie, not the best part, that was a stupid joke. But the fact that at the end of it says Thor will return, because there's been a lot of talk about like Chris Evans was like, if their script is right, it might not come back. But and he's like, I want to leave when they're going to miss me, not when they want me to leave. And rightfully so. But like, I would happily see another Thor movie with or without Hercules. Yeah,
I was surprised they did that because I don't think anything in the new phase has, right? We haven't gotten the Will returns.
10 Rings. 10 Rings will return was at the end of Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah.
What was the end of the Eternals?
Nothing.
I don't remember. I mean, Ben's going to look it up. I got to drink something. Somebody say something.
No, again, like I go entirely all back to, I just wanted more of these things. I just wanted more time with these things. I thoroughly enjoyed what I was given, though. Like, all of it really worked for me. I thought the main part of the story was correct. You did all the things you had to do, and you did them well. And like, I could have had room for like more to be expanded on, but I just had such a good time. I had a good time both times. I really like it so much.
Taika Waititi doesn't often say things I disagree with. He did say something I disagree with, and he says he hates director's cuts. He thinks directors need to be edited for a reason. So he said there's no director's cut for this movie coming out, which bums me out hardcore.
Yeah.
I think director's cuts are important because sometimes studios don't know the difference between art and just cash grab money stuff.
The MCU, it would be weird if the MCU came out with a director's cut at this point because they never have. It's already strange that Spider-Man No Way Home is doing it. Or an extended cut, whatever. That's probably not a director's cut.
Yeah, this is just the first MCU movie where I feel like I really want it.
I get that. I would be very happy if they finally put some decent deleted scenes in their movies on their Blu-rays, because I would happily see a lot of these that way too.
Because this is one of the first cases where we know a lot of stuff got cut. Like, there is so much. There's an entire other movies where there's a Snyder Cut's worth of movie that got cut out. And
maybe all of it didn't need to be there, but I'm sure some of it would have boosted some of the things we already loved.
There is an entire subplot with Lena Headey where she got paid $1.5 million, and we're just never going to see what that was about. And I'm just like, I would love to see what that's about, just a little bit.
I want deleted scenes. I hope they actually do that.
We really touched on Thor's a dad now.
Love at the end. Yeah. Oh, the Love and Thunder reveal.
Love and Thunder.
Oh, that's such a good reveal. I love it.
That was cute. I love that. I love the direction that scene went. That Thor now has Mjolnir again. Although, yeah, I like it. Like, it's a little like it was a little weird. It was a little weird when like it's very much implied that the hammer is like destroyed permanently because the Necrosword pieces that it absorbed.
For sure.
And then like at the end, the hammer's just fine. I'm like, I'm rolling with it. Like, it doesn't matter. But I do like the whole like father-daughter banter between the two. Like, oh, they're pancakes. You like pancakes? I don't like pancakes. I've never had pancakes before.
Pan flaps.
Pan flaps. Right.
She like laser eyes and he's like,
this was a new plot.
It's fun that this is like not just a brand new character that the MCU can like have fun with in the future, but like this is such an easy way to keep Chris Hemsworth in the MCU because he gets to hang out with his daughter most of the time.
Which is one of the things he's been saying, like when he has considered stepping away from acting, is to spend more time with his family.
All of the actors' kids showed up in this movie. Natalie Portman's kids showed up in this movie. Taika Waititi's kids, Christian Bale's, like they all have small parts in this movie, so it's really cool.
Do you know Chris Hemsworth's wife was in this too?
Yeah, she's the wolf lady.
She's the wolf lady on the back of the female wolf.
Really?
Yes.
At the very beginning, he makes out the lady on the back of a wolf.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's Chris Hemsworth's wife.
Yeah, because like they filmed in Australia, so like Natalie Portman and like she brought her kids to Australia, and like their kids went to school together, so like family was a big part of like making this movie too, and I'm like that is really cool that you can do that.
I think both of doesn't what's his name? Chris Hemsworth have two. Oh, Daryl the tour guide. Two kids.
His son was the little tiny Thor running in the montage at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what I remember.
Oh, that's cool.
All the kids get a college fund.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Tristan Hemsworth. Yeah, I'm trying to find the actor who played Love, like the full name.
Her name's India Rose.
India Rose
Hemsworth.
Yeah, very cool. I think that's he was in this. Sorry, I think that this it's a great movie. Do we want to rate it? I think we're done.
Yeah, I will give it a solid 8. It's not a bad score. I think it's a good movie. If it fleshed out a lot of the stuff I really loved, I'd probably give it a higher score. But I don't think 8's anything to run home about.
Not at all. Sparks or Ben?
I will give it a 9 just because I want more of it. I practically would give it a 10 though. Let's be honest. It's in my top 5 of the MCU.
Wow, top 5. Interesting.
Nice.
Ben?
I was hovering around 8, but then the more we talked about it, it jumped up. So I'll say 8.5. I still love this movie. I think I like Ragnarok just a little bit more, but on a whole, absolutely love what this movie's going for. I love the score. I love the music. Even the end credits roll where it's all different metal or like band logos just redone so it's the characters' names or the people who worked on this movie. It's a little stuff like that I thoroughly enjoyed. I had a blast. If I see this movie again, I'm probably gonna jump up my score, but as of right now, it's an 8.5.
Love it.
This isn't my top 5 MCU. I think I would probably put it under Ragnarok personally, but it's hovering around an 8.5 or a 9. I don't think I can pick. You know what? I'll round up. It's a 9.
I'm gonna go up. It's a 9.5.
Oh, I'll go up.
I'm gonna go down. It's a 7.
It's only criticism is absence of more things.
Yeah.
Shall we book club then?